All right, so welcome to BMGT 443, Equity Analysis. I am Professor Joe Perfetti. I'll be the faculty for the semester. This is a class on equity analysis that will train you to start to think like a sell-side analyst. It will cover really four major themes. We'll talk about 50% of the performance is the external environment that a company is in. So we'll talk about how to analyze and explain that environment. That's the first section of the class, EIC. Second section is finance is about the future, accounting is about the past, but we do need to understand the past to predict the future. So we'll talk about how to analyze and understand what's happening with companies historically. Third, we're going to focus on valuation. So I'll teach you how to do enterprise DCF free cash flow valuations tied to Modigliani-Miller and using McKinsey's format. And so we'll be doing that in our third section of the class. And our final section will be on what's called multiples or comparables, ratios, enterprise value to sales, enterprise value to EBITDA, price to earnings, how to create them, understand them, analyze them, and tie them back to the valuation. Okay, so those are the four major themes that we're going to be covering this semester. I posted the syllabus here online. There are four sections of this class. Right now, there's 46 people registered for each of these four sections. Same content across all the four sections. They're being taught here in 3505. The bad news is there's only 32 seats for 46 people. So we're just going to get very friendly over this semester. Unfortunately, I normally say if you miss one of the sections, you can go to a later section, but the rooms are already overcrowded. So I kind of need you to stay in the section that you're registered for. So basically, this is the one at 2 p.m., section 301. Again, same content. I've done it already at 11, 12:30. Got one more at 3:30 p.m. today. That's my name. That's my email address, perfetti@umd.edu. That's my iPhone, which works with text messages. I have an office on 4456 Van Munching Hall in the finance department. I'm almost never there. I'm usually, if you're going to find me on campus, I'm here in the classroom, 11 to 5, Mondays and Wednesdays. And we will have 4 TAs for this class. These are undergraduate TAs who have actually taken this class before and done well. The TAs will be responsible primarily for grading of the individual assignments, but they're also there for office hours to help you because, as I said, they were in your shoes, did similar assignments. So take advantage of the TAs. Now, you have a TA assigned to you, Shabazz, who will basically be doing the grading for your section. However, you can talk to any of the TAs if you need help or have questions about any assignment or any of the contents. They will have office hours on Thursday and Friday. 3 of the TAs have posted their office hours. I'm waiting on the 4th TA to give me his office hours. They will have office hours in my office in the finance department in Van Munching 4456. Okay? So again, talk to you a little bit about the course objectives. I want to talk about a few important things about the syllabus just to give you set expectations for the semester. First, we are going to be using Bloomberg Professional heavily throughout the semester. This is probably the most real-world class you're going to take at Smith. It's a cumulative class. It assumes you kind of know all the other content, and it's very applied. Okay? And Bloomberg Professional is the pro tool that is used in the finance community. So if you get a job on Wall Street, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, BlackRock, some private equity firm, this is the actual software you'd be using today. Okay? It's very expensive software. It costs $24,000 per user per year on a subscription basis. For the base model, prices go up from there based on features. For you, the cost is free within this class. We have 60 terminals at the University of Maryland College Park. 32 of them are here in this teaching classroom. There is no other classroom in the world that has 32 Bloomberg terminals. This is a luxury and a privilege that we actually have here to take advantage of the semester. That's the good news. The bad news is because this software is so super expensive, every terminal is registered with Bloomberg with a serial number that is unique and the location here. For some reason, IT in its infinite wisdom overwrote every one of these computers and installed a fresh copy of the software and the desktop from scratch, wiping out all of the Bloomberg serial numbers. So as of today, You cannot access the software in this lab to do any of your work or any of your assignments for the semester, which is a serious problem. I've sent some urgent messages this morning to IT to say, please help, because you basically shut down 443 because no one can do any of the assignments because you wiped out all the terminals in this lab. Okay, so more to come, but I will let you know that the first homework assignment that's due Monday, I'm switching it to being due Wednesday because it involves using this software, which you're not actually able to access. So we're going to do our best to work around it. Real world challenges. But nonetheless, it's really important and cool software. You're going to become certified in this software, and you're going to be using it heavily, including for almost every single assignment, starting with the first one. Okay? So more about that in just a few minutes. I'll also say that this is what I call a hybrid class, which means sometimes we'll have face-to-face lectures. Sometimes I might post a YouTube video and give you some assignments that you'll watch in lieu of the lecture, hands-on assignments. And because there are 46 students registered and 32 terminals in this room, I will sometimes have Bloomberg lab days just to give you the chance to use the software to do the work because we don't have enough computers to go around during every class. Okay, so again, just kind of letting you know, calling it a hybrid class as we go through the semester, but you will learn a lot. Attendance is very important from this perspective, and I just want to be really clear. This class is a lot of work. All right, there is one homework assignment every single week that you will have to do. There are 5 team projects throughout the semester, which are a substantial amount of work. There's a BMC certification to use this software, which will take you 8 hours to complete. There are also a midterm and a final exam. All right, if you put in the effort, you're going to learn a heck of a lot. And you're going to be Wall Street whiz kids by the end of the semester and know a lot about the real world, how things work and the marketplace, and it will differentiate you and give you a head start. If you're not willing to put in the work, drop the class. All right, I strongly encourage you, go find something else. This is not an easy class where you show up for the first class, last class, and that's it. That's not this class. Because if you don't actually pay attention every week and do the assignments every week, which build on each other, you will become completely lost and hopeless in terms of what we're doing this semester. Okay? So I'm just telling you, if that's not a class you want to put work in, please drop it. There's a bunch of people on the wait list that would love to get in here. And so I'd rather get rid of a few people today because this is not the class for them. I will also tell you from a grading standpoint, generally what happens is most people either get A's or D's and F's. I get almost no C's and very few B's because the way it works is you are graded on every individual assignment and you accumulate points across all of the assignments. So if you don't do those assignments, you're going to get a very bad grade. And 50% of your grade are 5 team projects. And if you don't participate in those 5 team projects, you will not be able to pass this class. Now, I had this conversation with a class last semester, and somebody, for whatever reason, didn't pay attention and didn't participate in his team projects, and he failed the class. And he's not allowed to graduate anymore because he failed this class, and he's very upset. Okay? The semester before, I had 4 students who didn't participate in the team projects and failed the class. So I'm letting you know now, transparently, it will require a lot of time on teams. So if you don't like working with other people, this is not the class for you because you will have to work with those teams. And every one of those team projects will have peer reviews to show that you participated in all those 5 projects. If one or more of your team members gives you a negative peer review, I will not adjust your grade. But if 2 or more of your peers give you a negative peer review, I'll adjust your grade. So if 2 peers say you didn't show up for any of the group projects, you're going to lose 50% of your grade for the entire semester, right? And it's not that they're being vindictive. It's just they're paying attention to what you're doing on your teams. Teamwork requires equal participation. It is unacceptable to me for you to take credit for work you didn't do, okay? And you just can't ride the grade of the rest of your team members. So I want to be really transparent about the expectations as we get started here this semester. But if you're willing to put in the work, you'll learn a lot. So when we have face-to-face classes, there will be an attendance sheet that will be passed around. You need to sign the attendance sheet to say that you were here. I'm not going to start the attendance sheet until the end of the drop ad. Okay, so we don't have one this week or next, but after that, we'll start passing the attendance sheet, but that applies to classes where we're physically here. That's important because one unexcused absence is okay, but if you have 2 or more unexcused absences, you won't be able to opt out of the final exam. So the privilege in this class is if you show up and you do the work, and you do well in the work, you won't have to take the final exam. Okay? If you miss more than one class with an unexcused absence, you then have to take the final exam. Last semester, 110, 120 out of about 160 students opted out of the final exam. Okay? And I hope almost every one of you can. Because from my perspective, if you put in the work, you're going to learn a lot. And that's really, it's cumulative learning. This isn't the cram the book last night type of a class, right? And again, it's very applied, right? So very important in terms of unexcused absences. If we do have a Zoom class because of COVID or something, we'll take attendance based on Zoom registrations, okay? Now, the other thing is back to group projects. There are 4 mandatory attendance days. I put them into the announcements. Those are the 4 group project presentations that are scattered throughout the semester. You have to be there for all 4 of those days. If you're not there for any day that is a group project presentation, you lose 5% of your semester grade for each day that you miss. Okay, so those are the 4 serious attendance days. All right, I've already had a couple people. Now, here's the point. If you miss a mandatory day because of a university-approved absence, meaning you got in a car accident, there's a death in your family, you have COVID, something really bad's going on, okay, excused, right? But if you're just having the sniffles, you want to go to a wedding, some friends are coming into town to visit you, those are not university-approved absences. I already had 2 people send me an email yesterday. One of them said, hey, I got a wedding one of those days. I can't make it. Instead of losing 5% of your grade, I'm not going to consider that to be an excused absence. Then I'm going to give one alternative. You could write a 1,000-word paper before the class with pre-approval from myself or the TAs, and that will allow you to miss one of those days. Okay? So that's your get-out-of-jail card if you choose to miss one of the mandatory attendance days. You're going to have to write an extra paper. Right? But otherwise, be there for those classes. Other classes, you can skip. But I'll tell you miss a lot of classes, you're going to get behind very, very quickly. All right. So back to Excel. It's going to be very much utilized. If you don't know Excel, trust me, by the end of the semester, you're going to know how to use Excel. All right? Because that's going to be extensively used throughout the semester. In addition, as I said, half your grade will come from 5 group projects. Teams in the projects will get a group grade subject to peer reviews. Peer reviews could adjust your grade if you didn't fully participate in any or all of the projects. We'll put those in during the week. Talked about the cadence of assignments. In a general, the cadence of the assignments is they'll be giving out Wednesday, and then the individual assignments will be due Monday at 10 a.m. Okay? The exception is going to be this week because since nobody can access the terminals to do the assignment for Monday, I'm going to push it right now to next Wednesday, pending what IT is able to do. Okay? But nonetheless, generally Wednesday through 10 a.m. Monday. 10 a.m. is important because we take deadlines very seriously in this class. If you submit anything after a deadline, we don't grade it. And you're not allowed to make it up. No exceptions. A couple of rules I give to the TAs for grading. Number 1, don't do for any one student what you wouldn't do for any other student. So if I'm not grading somebody else that didn't submit by the deadline, I don't care what your excuse is, I'm not grading you when you submit something after a deadline, period. Don't even try, don't even ask. All right. Now, again, university-approved absences, sickness, death in the family, okay, that should be an exceptional circumstance. But if you just blew through the deadline because you slept or forgot to turn it in, sorry, not going to be able to make it up. All right. Job interviews are potentially excused absences if you submit the excuse before the interview, before the class. All right. And our general philosophy is we will be more flexible before deadlines than after deadlines. And the TAs are nicer than I am. And the TAs have the authority to give you extensions. But the extensions have to be in writing, no verbal. If it's verbal, it didn't happen. Okay? So if you have a job interview next Monday, you want to make an excused absence, send us an email. Hey, I got a super day on Monday in this place. I can't be here in the class. We'll be like, fine. Need an extension for Monday's assignment because I have the job interview. Probably give you the extension. If you go to your job interview on Monday and on Tuesday you come back and say, oh, I couldn't do the homework or I missed the class because I went to a job interview yesterday, then our answer will be, I hope you got the job, but you're getting a 0 on the assignment, and we're not going to let you make it up. So deadlines are serious. Time is serious as well. You submit at 10 o'clock, it's accepted. At 10:10, 0. Okay? So again, if you miss a deadline, it's not going to get counted. If you're struggling at the deadline to submit something because you have technical difficulties, email it with the attachment. Don't email to say, I couldn't submit it on Elms and not give us anything. Okay? So I expect if you email me something for a 10 o'clock deadline, it should be there at like 10:05. Say, Professor Perfetti, I couldn't submit, here's my file. All right? Without that, without the file submitted, we're not going to take it. So pretty transparent. The final rule that all the TAs work under, we only grade what is submitted. So you're going to come to me at some point in the semester and say, Professor Perfetti, I forgot to upload my Excel file, or I didn't give you a screenshot. Here it is on my laptop. You can see the timestamp. I don't care if it's on your laptop. It wasn't submitted. We only grade what is submitted. So if it's not submitted, it doesn't count. All right? Sounds harsh, but that's how we're going to treat you fairly throughout the semester. We're going to apply those rules universally and equally to everybody else. All right. The other important thing about how we grade. In this class, you don't get credit for just writing a lot of words. I don't care if you write 2,000 words, I'll give you a 0 on a submission if you don't have the right answer. All right? One of my preferred quotes from Einstein, I'll paraphrase, is a person's understanding of a subject is inversely related to their ability to explain it. If you understand something, it's pretty simple and clear that you can answer it. If you start just giving lots and lots of data, what you're telling me is you don't know the answer. So, translation, if you write a lot of words, it is not our responsibility to sort through all of your answer to try and find something that we think might be right. Because what you're telling me is you don't know the answer. So to have the answer, you actually have to answer the question. Right? And you have to use data. This is a finance class. No numbers, no backup, no credit. Good example. One of the first questions you're going to address is this an attractive industry? You're smart enough in your undergraduate careers to know that you could answer that question without doing any work, because at a minimum, it's a 50% probability of being right. Right? And you can be general in your statements and vague, and other professors will give you an A for that. Here, I don't deal with that. Okay? You write general, vague statements, you get 0s. I don't care if you're right or wrong. You got to give data. So just as an example, is this an attractive industry? Yes, this is an attractive industry because this company is doing better than the others. No credit. Yes, this is an attractive industry because the industry ROIC is 22.3%. The industry WACC is 9.8%. The industry spread is about 13%. And for that reason, this is a value-creating industry, which makes it an attractive industry. That, in this class, is an attractive answer. That is a correct answer. Okay? You must use numbers in papers. You must use numbers in presentations. No data, no numbers, no credit. Right? Now, you're going to say, this guy's a hard ass. Right? He's making me use numbers. He's making me show up to class. He's actually enforcing deadlines. It's actually for your own benefit. I'm telling you, you work in the real world, and you just basically show up for one of your work meetings 2 hours late, they're going to fire you. You send in a presentation to your boss and they've asked you to explain something without any numbers and backup to support it, you're not going to last very long. So in a way, it will prepare you for the real world, but it's also the only way you're going to learn how to do this stuff. And it goes back to grading. When you use numbers, we know what you're saying, and we know whether or not you have right answers, and we can give you feedback. When you're vague in general, you could BS your way through a class, not learn anything, and that's not going to work very well in 443. So again, just being transparent and clear about our expectations. If you have questions about any of this, stop along the way. Feel free to ask. All right? So continuing on, I have a YouTube channel. Every class, at least one of the sections, will be recorded and posted on that YouTube channel, youtube.com/JoePerfetti. I'm actually recording this section right now. Later today, I'll post it on YouTube. I don't post on Panopto because Panopto sucks. Right? It's hard to use, barely accessible, crashes and burns all the time. YouTube, I found, is pretty universally accessible on any device, easy to use. So all the class videos will be on YouTube. I used to just record them because people miss the class. But for the last few years, I just record every class. So it's could be referenced, including what you're going to probably need to look at today. Okay. Again, groups were already created. Half your grade is in groups. Every group will have a peer review, so it's very important that you equally participate in every group project. Back to the groups, if you go to people, you had a few people add the class recently. I think they were clearing some of the wait list. But generally, if you're not one of these 12 people, under project teams, you've been assigned to a team. There are 6 teams per section, 7 to 8 people per team. So my first thing is go to Elms sometime in the next couple days, go to the people tab, figure out what team you're on. You might want to create a little group list because the first group project is going to start next week. So these are very important people because for the next 14 weeks, these people are responsible for about half your grade because you're all going to be working together. Okay, so you might even want to choose like who might even be a team leader to keep you organized. The syllabus. The textbook is Valuation, 7th edition. Here's the key to the textbook. I don't care if you read it or not, but I'm assuming you've read it in everything we do. And if you haven't read it, you don't know it, well, it's going to be bad for you. So everything is a foundation in this class, and we're building on that foundation using real-world exercise. This book, by the way, is the Bible on Wall Street for valuation. Every professional has this on their bookshelf. Every professional has read this book. This tells you how it's actually done. This is the book that we're using in this class. It's the theory that we're going to be applying throughout the semester. I've listed what the readings are. I've shown them what you should catch up with every week. This is the textbook. It's up to you. Okay. The first project is called the Bloomberg Trading Challenge. This is 10 of 50% of your grade. The Bloomberg Trading Challenge is also something that's unique. It's something Bloomberg allows very few schools to do, which basically means in this class we can create our own tournaments. So for each section, you'll have 6 teams. You'll be given $1 million next week, hypothetical dollars. You'll use the Bloomberg terminal to trade real-world equities. Okay, over 6 weeks, you'll trade them, buy, sell, short, go long, and at the end of the 6 weeks, we'll look at portfolio values. The team with the highest portfolio value gets an A. The team with the lowest portfolio gets an F, forced ranking. Doesn't matter whether you're in first place by $1 or $100,000. It's real world. You got to outperform your peers to get a grade. It's 5 points of your semester grade. First place gets 5 points, second place 4 points, 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, etc. Okay? So at the end of 6 weeks, we'll then reset the competition, start you back with a fresh $1 million, and you'll do a second 6-week sprint at the end of the semester. In order to do the competition, you will use the Bloomberg tool because it's the actual trading platform Wall Street uses. It's the one you're going to use to buy and sell and evaluate stocks. Okay, so we're going to definitely apply the material we're working on this semester in the real world as we go through. That assignment will start next week. You will need a team captain because only one of your team members will be able to access the actual trading competition on behalf of your team. We'll talk more about this next week, but that needs to be a responsible party because they're going to be the ones trading on behalf of your team, and you don't want them going rogue. Right? I've had that happen. So, in addition, you're going to have to be, this is very real world, so you got to keep up with current events. You'll notice for the individual homework assignments, if you peruse them, many of them don't list the actual companies you're doing the work on. That's intentional. If the assignment's due Wednesday, I'm probably looking at Tuesday, the headlines, to figure out what assignment we're going to be doing for the next week. So we're going to be very relevant and topical to what's going on in the real world as we do every assignment throughout the semester. All right, this is not Harvard Business School classes. All right, we don't do case studies. We don't do what happened in 1994. Who cares? We do what happened on January 15th. That's much more relevant. Okay, so in terms of grading, again, ELMS will have a trouble with grading for this class because ELMS is not set up to grade the way we actually do assignments in this class. The individual grade on any one individual assignment this semester does not matter. The way it matters is you accumulate points across all assignments to get a grade. So it's not percentage of total, it's just total points. Now there's 100 total points right now this semester before extra credit, and there will be extra credit at the end of the semester. Okay? How much depends on how well the class is doing. Okay? But nonetheless, to get an A, you need 93 out of those 100 points. To get a B, you need 83 out of those 100 points. To To get a B minus, you need 80 out of those 100 points across all assignments. So let's say homework 3, for whatever reason, you forgot to do. It's 2 points, you get a 0. I know you'll be upset, but technically you could still get 98 other points and you could still make an A. Okay, so that's the point. You accumulate points across all assignments. Now let's say that I do put in an extra credit at the end of the semester, 3 points of extra credit. Now there's 103 points available. 93 points is still an A. Okay, so ELMS will say 93 out of 103, which is less than 93%, and it won't look like an A, but I don't care about ELMS. I count up all the points. 93 points out of 103 is still an A. Okay, does that kind of make sense? So what is the distribution of points currently? 5%, 5 points, is Bloomberg certification. So in order to use this Pro Tool, got to learn how to use the Pro Tool. So you're going to use their actual certification to teach you how to start to use the Pro Tool. You'll have to be certified by third week of class, February 17th, 19th, whatever that Friday is. It's on the syllabus. Okay. Take about 6 to 8 hours. Yes. Good news for you is that the certification is actually separate from the terminal and can be done online. So I'm going to show you in just a few minutes how to access the online certification, so you can do it on any computer that has a browser, and you can do it anywhere. Okay, so that's one privilege of the certification. Okay, 40 points are 4 non-Bloomberg trading projects, 10 points per project, 10 points on EIC, 10 points on historical, 10 points on valuation, 10 points on multiples. Those will be PowerPoint presentations delivered on the mandatory days, 10-minute PowerPoints, group grades, 10 points each. 25% of your grade will be 11 individual homework assignments, 1 a week for 11 weeks, skipping the week of spring break. And homework 12, I put in there as a placeholder for an extra credit assignment. Right? 10 points will be the midterm exam. 10 points will be the Bloomberg trading competition, 5 points each half of the semester. And 10 points is an opt-out available final exam. Okay. Talked about attendance. Honor code, please follow it. I hate when people have to be sent to the Honor Council for doing really stupid stuff. We use Turnitin. So basically, anytime you submit anything in writing, it is matched against the database, which includes submissions that happen during the same assignment. And any Turnitin score of 30% or higher is sent to the Honor Council by default. Okay? If you look at the Turnitin score, if you're not familiar with that, that is the percentage of an exact match of another paper. And so if you have 30% or more that is an exact match for somebody else, that's not random, and you will be sent to the Honor Council. Okay? So your only hope at that point is that you have footnoted, quoted, and bibliographied what's in there that matches the real world. Okay? So if you give unattributed work that's copied, you're going to have a hard time explaining to the Honor Council how that's not plagiarism. Okay? So again, don't go to the Honor Council. It's not really worth it academically. Course assistant website prohibition, the universities banned those for a few years. So historical websites like Course Hero, etc. are not allowed. You're not allowed to use previous assignments or submissions from previous semesters unless I give you explicit permission. Any of those would be considered an academic honor violation. I'm also adding that I'm banning ChatGPT and their ilk starting this semester. I was playing around with it last week. It's pretty cool. It can write pretty good papers. It can do part of what we do here. It can't do all of what we do here. But from your perspective, it can do none of what we do here. Okay? You're not allowed to use it. Using it, in my opinion, is an honor code violation. So no ChatGPT or other AI-based tool to write the work for you. You need to submit your own work. Right? You need to do your own analysis. You shouldn't be giving somebody else's analysis. Right? Late assignment policy, we talked about it, pretty straightforward. We don't accept late assignments. Deadlines are serious. Please fill out the evaluation at the end of the semester. If you have any special needs, let me know. As an example, somebody in the first class told me they were on the track team, and they're probably going to have some track meets and or practices. If that gets in the way with an assignment, we'll give them either an excused absence and or we can be flexible on a deadline. So again, talk to us before deadlines. If you're struggling, you need help, come to us. Don't be afraid to talk to us if you're struggling. Right? Don't be afraid to talk to the TAs. All right? If you don't want to talk to me, talk to the TAs. They did these assignments in previous semesters. They're grading it. They know how to do it. They're there to help you. Take advantage of their office hours. Take advantage of me as well. I might sound a little bit more intimidating. Today I'm trying to scare a few people to drop the class. We got too many students here. But generally, we want to help you. All right, so if you need help, talk to us about anything. In terms of the final thing I want to mention, everybody's going to make a mistake. So one of the things that I put in here is what I call the assignment replacement. Right? If you don't do well or miss any individual assignment, you can replace that assignment with an alternative assignment, which is a 500-word paper, that will replace it as if you did that assignment and got full credit. Okay? So back to, you didn't do homework 3, you got a 0. Right? So you do the assignment replacement, we'll treat it as if you turned it in and got full credit. Right? You can apply the assignment replacement to one assignment, to any of the 11 individual assignments throughout the semester. Now, you don't choose which one you apply it to. The TAs will apply it to one of those assignments the last week of class when they finalize the grading. So you can do the assignment replacement paper anytime between now and the first week of May. But nonetheless, if you miss an individual assignment, you can use that to make it up. And if you did poorly on an individual assignment, it will also give you full credit. Right? The other thing that's available to you is the ability to opt out of the final exam. This is a privilege, not a right. Okay? So here's the deal. If you meet all of the criteria, you don't have to take the final exam, and we'll just give you 10 points at the end of the semester. If you miss any of the criteria, you'll have to take the final exam the last day of class. Okay? Last semester, trying to do the math, 110, 120 out of 160 students opted out of the final exam. Okay? So again, what are the criteria? First, you have to do all assignments on time. Okay? No late assignments. Right? Second, you have to turn in all the assignments. You also have to do your Bloomberg certification, and you have to do minimum 60% or higher on your midterm exam. And on all your group projects, you can't have any negative peer reviews. Right? Group project grades, by definition, can actually get some low scores and still opt out of the final exam, because in the Bloomberg Trading Challenge, by definition, 3 teams in this class will get failing grades on the Bloomberg Trading Challenge. But I won't count that against your opt-out. But in the midterm, I will. And on every individual homework assignment, you got to get 50% or more. So on a 2-point assignment, you need 1 or more points. Okay? If you get 0.5 points out of 2, you won't be able to opt out of the final exam. You have to attend all classes with no more than 1 unexcused absence. You cannot be sent to the Honor Council in terms of the final exam opt-out. And so if you meet all of those criteria at the end of the semester, you won't have to take the final exam, and you'll just get 10 points. Okay? We will let you know and apply the criteria ourselves on May 5th. Okay? So we'll tell you whether you can opt out on May 5th. If you opt out, you don't have to show up at the final day of class. If you don't opt out, we'll tell you have to take the exam on the final day of class. Questions, comments, concerns, crippling fears? Yes?
So on any homework, you said we have to use Bloomberg. So that means
Almost all of them.
So we have to do it in here.
Yeah. Well, and so think of it this way. What you're going to quickly find is you might be able to just take 10 minutes, get the data in here, bring it home, write the paper at home, or do some of the Excel work at home. But you'll at least need to access the terminals to get the data. As you're going to see in just a minute, you can't do homework 1 without accessing the terminal. So that's actually one of the problems with the serial numbers in this room. Now, there's 32 terminals in this lab. There's a bunch of terminals in a lab on 1416 or something like that on the first floor. That one's kind of open up to the whole university, so you have to fight for those terminals. The key to this room is it's like Fight Club, and we don't talk about Fight Club. So my recommendation is don't tell all your friends about the cool stuff you're doing in 3505, because they're going to want to come in here, and we don't want them to come in here. Now, technically, this lab is open to anybody in the university, but I don't like to broadcast it because we got 170 students for 32 terminals. And in order for you to do the assignments, if a bunch of other people in here, it's going to be harder to do, even outside of the classes that we are in. But generally, the lab is open 7 days a week. Monday, Wednesday is our classes. They got a couple of random classes on other days, but most of the time, 8 to 5, you can use the lab Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And you'll need to get in the lab here to do the assignments. Other questions? All right, so let's talk about Bloomberg certification first. I'll make an announcement with this link but if you want to follow even right now in real time, to get certified, which is the training for how to use the software, you can go to a website called portal.bloombergforeducation.com on any browser. Now, when you get to this website, you'll come to a screen that looks like this. Now, to sign up for this portal and get an account, doesn't cost anything. Anybody can do it. You don't have to be in this class or anything else. Where it says register here. That's where you sign up. Once you have an account, you log in. When you click on register here, you're going to register as a learner, and your account is going to be an email address. Very important. That email address has to end in umd.edu. Not gmail.com, not yahoo.com, umd.edu. When you type in your email at umd.edu, of which you should have two, I have perfetti@turpmail.umd.edu. I have perfetti@umd.edu. Both are two emails. Two separate emails, either one could work here. It'll give the institution, University of Maryland, choose a password, put in your name, you're not a robot, sign up. When you hit sign up, it's going to send an email to that email address. You have to click that email to verify it's you. It's then going to bring you to another screen that says, do you want to pay for the Bloomberg certification? There's three options. Option 1 is like $299. Option 2 is $149. Option 3 is complimentary. You need to choose complimentary, which is free. You don't need to pay for the training. But here's the key. The only way you get the complimentary option is if you use a umd.edu email. So our deal with Bloomberg is anybody with a UMD email can take the certification for free. Now, if you're just rich and you don't care, spend the money. It's up to you. But I like free. So it doesn't cost you anything to get certified using a UMD account. Choose complimentary. Once you do that and log in, you're going to come to a screen that looks like this. At the top of the screen, when you sign in, there's a link that says certificates. This is their training courses. The training course that you want is called Bloomberg Market Concepts, or BMC for short. That's the certification for the terminal, the software. When you click on that, it'll show you what you need to do to get certified, but here's the point. When you're certified, you will get to download that PDF with your name on it, and more importantly, you can put on your LinkedIn profile, your resume, etc. The first thing you will do when you go work on Wall Street is they'll send you the certification. So you have a leg up on just about almost every student out there interviewing it once you get certified, and this will help you. It will differentiate you. Question?
I'm sorry, can you find the class code?
I'm sorry?
The class code for the conference?
All right, so when it asks you for a class code, you don't need one because you have a umd.edu email address. So you don't need a class code, you don't need a promo code, as long as you use umd.edu. Okay, so that's all you need. Complimentary though, choose complimentary. All right, yes?
So we have to come for 70 hires, and does that mean that we can take it as many times?
We're going to talk about that in just a second. So what is certification? As you scroll down, each of the modules, Module 1, Economic Indicators, Currencies, Fixed Income, Equities, Terminal Basics, Commodities, Equity Options, Portfolio Management, those are all the modules available. The ones here with the 4 blue badges are the ones that are required for certification. The 4 blue badge modules take about 1 to 3 hours each. Okay? Now, the other ones are optional. You don't have to do the other ones. Although I would highly recommend Terminal Basics. Okay? Because this software has a steep learning curve and is very complicated. Okay? In a few weeks, you're going to be whizzes, but you still got to get up that learning curve. Terminal Basics will give you some of the basics on how to use the software. But it's not certified, required. The certification of those first 4. Okay? Now, when I click on Economic Indicators, these are the 3 online learning modules I had to go through. I started the first one. It'll remember where you are, so you don't have to do it all at once. You can come back to it from time to time. So when I resume, like The modules
The
will have
customary way
videos,
to measure the size and performance of any accounting
text, and quizzes, multiple choice quizzes. Here's the key. When you take the quizzes, you have to get 70% or greater correct for each module to get credit for certification in this class. Okay? Any number less than 70% correct is a fail and will not count. So if you have 3 modules, all above 70%, and 1 module below 70%, 0 points. There's no partial credit. You're either certified with more than 70% on all 4 modules, or you're not. You have between now and February 17th or 19th to do that. Okay? Now, here's the thing about the quizzes. You can only take the quiz 1 time. So if you take the quiz and fail the quiz and get 50%, you can't take the quiz again. And the quizzes are gotcha quizzes. If you don't watch and listen to this video, you will not get the quiz questions right. Like, I'm pretty proficient in the software at this point. I tried taking the quizzes a couple of times without actually watching the videos or reading the content. The best I scored was 40%. Okay? So what I'm telling you is the quiz questions are going to be like, what did we say in the video, and what were the choices that we used in the video, and which choice did we recommend? Like, that's the quiz question. So if you don't watch the quiz questions, you're just guessing out of 5 answers, and you're just not going to do better than random. So what I'm telling you is if you watch it, you'll have no trouble getting these percentages. Okay? But if you blow through it, you're going to get a poor score, and you won't be able to take it again. So here's what your option is. If you blow through it and score poorly, you have to create another account using another email address that is unique. Now at this point, you have 2 UMD email addresses. So if I use Perfetti at Terpmail and I screw it up, I still can fall back on Perfetti at umd.edu. When I screw it up on Perfetti at umd.edu, then I might have trouble because I'm running out of UMD email addresses, and it's going to start asking me to pay on my Gmail account. Okay? Or you have to convince a friend to let them borrow their email account so that you could do the certification. So hopefully that's not you. As I said, you listen to the videos, you're going to have no trouble doing the certification, but that's the whole point. That's what Bloomberg wants. They want people to listen to the videos. They want people to read the text. That's what they consider certification. Yes?
Are these quizzes timed?
It's not timed. Timed as in you got to get it done in the next 3 weeks. Okay? So here's the point. When you finish a module, next to this ribbon, the percentage of what you got correct will show up. So the percentage scores will be right here for each module. When you're done with all 4, take a screenshot of all 4, submit it. Okay? In fact, somebody showed me in the last class, they said, look, I took the certification before, can I redo it? And I said, here's the deal. There's 2 new modules that you didn't do, redo the 2 modules, and show me that you did better than 70% of the other 2 modules, I will accept that. So you can give me 2 screenshots. Here's my screenshots of what I did last semester, and then here's the 2 modules that are new that I redid, 70% across all 4, equal certification. Does that make sense? Okay. So this is something you can do as of today, and considering homework 1 is being postponed, I would start on it. Okay? And again, you can do this from the comfort of your own home or wherever. Now, when you're able to access the terminals, you can also get to the certification through the terminals, but it's clunky. This is still easier than doing it through the terminals. But there's 2 separate logins. The login you do for the education account and the certification is a different login than the one you'll use to actually access the computers in the lab. Okay? All right, questions about the certification? All right, so let's talk about homework 1 and what you're going to eventually have to do. So back to Bloomberg. Bloomberg is Windows software. Full screen here. There we go. And when you log in, it's just clicking an icon on the desktop that says Bloomberg. You can technically download the software from the Bloomberg.com website, okay, and install it on any Windows desktop, okay. But here's the problem, and this is the problem you're going to see on every one of these machines right now. When you click on enter to log in, it's going to bring you to a screen looking like this. And on your screen, under the username and password, it's going to say advanced options. And when you click on advanced options, it's going to ask for the serial number because somebody wiped out all the serial numbers on all these computers when they reinstalled from whatever backup that they had used to clean up the machines for the spring. So somebody's got to reinstall the serial numbers. Once those serial numbers are installed, or if you want to start in the lab downstairs, there'll be an option down here to create a new login. Okay? This is what you'll want to do because you won't have a login initially. Create a new login. All right? It's basically going to say, are you creating the login for yourself or someone else? Think of it as a trick question. You're creating it for yourself. Next. Have you ever used the terminal before? For almost all of you, you should say no. Never used it before. If you used it before, then figure out your old login. Next. You'll type in your name. Choose a login name, like I'm Jay Perfetti, not an email address. Type in a phone number, preferably your cell phone, and an email address, and then hit next. On the next screen, it's going to say, where do you want us to send a confirmation code? Cell phone, text message, email, you'll get a code. You'll type in that code that they send you, and then it will create your account. You'll then choose a password, and then you're done. And then you'll go back to the login screen and log in with that username and password. Unfortunately, right now in this lab, you're going to be prevented from doing that because the create new user login is disabled because the serial numbers are not set up. Because the unique license we have with Bloomberg, because they're very protective of the software and the data, is that in this lab, anybody that signs up for an account in this lab gets an account. Okay? That's not the way they use it in the real world. So it's a privilege that we have. So if you're in this lab, you're getting it free accounts. But that's the point. They need to know that the computers are in this lab, and they don't know without the serial numbers. That's our problem that we're having right now. Question over there? So hand. All right, so that's how you create a login. Hopefully pretty straightforward. Once you're able to create a login, which again, you can do this on one of the other terminals in the general lab downstairs if you want to get a head start. And I'll make an announcement as soon as IT fixes this. You'll come back to the screen and you'll log in by typing in your username and your password. Now, what I'm about to do is one extra step that you won't have. We have 60 terminals at the school. Okay, 32 of them are in this lab. You can't use the software remotely. You can't log in with like some kind of remote dial access. They disable all that to user restricted license. But there are 2 people in the entire university that are allowed to access Bloomberg outside of the classroom anywhere. I am one of them. Sarah Kroenke is the other. Okay, so you won't be able to do what I'm about to do because I can actually do this from home. But the point is, when I log in, it's going to generate a QR code, and I have to log in on my phone separately, 2-factor authentication, to show it's really me with Face ID as a second login to prove it's me. That's the only way they would let me do it outside the classroom. Okay? But you won't be able to do that, so you won't see that step. So once you finish logging in, it will load the screen. Now, Bloomberg actually has 4 windows that will load by default because it's actually set up for multiple monitors. All right, so if you had 4 monitors on a desk, big Wall Street person, all the data on it, it would actually fill them all. Okay, but nonetheless, you'll probably be using one of the screens. And the typical screen will look like this when you log in. This software was originally designed in the 1980s. So Michael Bloomberg, billionaire, former mayor of New York, basically in the 80s, started with Wall Street. He went to a bunch of banks. He said, look, started with fixed income. We all need a trading platform. We all need to basically analyze these bonds in a consistent way. We need to track everything. I'll be the clearinghouse. I'll be the data source that we can all build together. And that's where Bloomberg got started. And then after he hooked them all up with their bonds, they then did equities, currencies, commodities, etc. And so today, they have 340,000 users worldwide. It's a system of record. It's got 1.4 million stocks in the database. Again, it's got all the information, news feeds, etc. This is the Pro Tool. Okay. Now, but the problem is it's legacy 1980s. And it's not that Bloomberg doesn't want to make it look more like 2000s, but the problem is they've had people who've been using this for 30 years with keyboard shortcuts. So the screens, there's 34,000 of them, are driven by keyboard shortcut. So 2, 3, 4-digit codes get you to screens. You're going to learn about 10 of them this semester, okay? But nonetheless, let's talk about this. Give me any publicly traded company anywhere in the world. Who? Disney. Okay. So the way it works is this top line is kind of like a Google search bar. What Bloomberg has done is if you don't know the company, you can start typing information in, help you find it. But I'm going to start typing in Disney. Now at the top of the screen, it's kind of like this general search results. In the middle of the screen, it's the actual securities. So the Walt Disney Company, Disney, ticker symbol DIS. It's in the US, so it's a US stock, DIS, US. And then equity means we're analyzing the stock. Corp means you're analyzing the debt. That's fixed income. Okay? So if we're analyzing Disney stock, Disney US equity, you can either click on it or type in DIS US equity, and it'll bring you to the Disney screen. Okay. So across the top, real world quote, they're trading at 107.27 today, up $1.27. Volume. This little thing is news. And so basically 2 out of 4 bars, there's some news about Disney today, but there's not a lot. There were 4 bars, there'd be a lot of news. If you click on this, it'll bring you right to the company news. So these are from pulling all the news wires, everything people are basically saying about Disney from any source. You don't need subscriptions to anything anymore. This is your one-size-fits-all subscription. Okay. So again, it's pulling from Dow Jones, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, etc. So again, news, go back. DES, short code for description. You can either click on it or type in DES. This is a description of what the company. So if you don't know anything about the company, it tells you who they are, little primer, click on the primer. And here is a summary of who Disney is and what they do and what their outlook is. Takes a second to load. Written by a sell-side analyst. Okay, so this is what investors would see about Disney and what's going on. Very helpful. All right, it's got issue information about the stock, some summary ratios, revenue earnings per share estimates, ESG scorecard. But here's the point. If I go back to Disney US equity, the first thing we're going to work on this semester for homework 1 is down here called RV. RV is short for relative valuation. This is benchmarking. This is where I can compare Disney against other companies. In order to do homework 1, you'll have to go to the RV screen for Disney, well, whatever company that you choose. So here's Disney. By default, this will give me the Wall Street peer group that Wall Street uses for Disney. Now, I can edit this list to my heart's content. I can also choose where it says comp source to use other peer sets for Disney. Okay? This one is the one that the analysts have chosen. There's another one which Bloomberg does by algorithm about who they think their peers are, so the computer picks them. There's also, you can do, for example, GICS, the Global Industry Classification list of Disney's peers. So there's different ways to slice this and dice this, and I can edit to my heart's content. So different peer groups. For homework 1, I'm just going to ask you to use the default for the company, which will either be analyst curated or the Bloomberg algorithm. Okay. Now, the default is these are North American large companies. If I click on this drop down, there might be different lists. Like there could be, for example, a global list that they might have, right? But nonetheless, there's all these default numbers, and there's a series of tabs with different numbers. So for example, in this tab, it'll have income statement, balance sheet data. This tab, ESG data, market price data, EPS data, ownership, credit ratings. But the important tab here is called custom. Custom allows us to look up any data point we want on any company. That's going to be the key. Now, when you go to the screen the very first time, your screen's not going to look exactly like this. If you click on settings and go to global settings, which are by account, your screen is going to look like this. And it's going to have this really ugly, useless bar in the middle of the screen. There's no value to this bar in their default screen. It just gets in the way. So your data of all the companies is actually at the bottom of the screen. So to get rid of this really ugly bar that just takes up a bunch of real estate, click on Settings, go to Global Settings, uncheck Show Top Section, close, the bar is gone. Okay? Now the second thing you're going to have to do is these are the 4 peers of Disney. If I go back to Settings, Global Settings, down here are some statistics. I'm going to click Market Cap Weighted Average. I'm not going to click Straight Average. And what that's going to do is that's going to give me an average of all the companies on that list. So this is basically your industry average. And we're choosing Market Cap Weighted Average because I don't want some teeny tiny company to distort the average of an industry. So it's going to be adjusted by size of company when we choose Market Cap Weighted Average as opposed to Straight Average. But if you want to do other stats on companies and industries, you can choose to put the other stats on the list too. But Market Cap Weighted Average is the key one for your assignment. Right? Then where it says Add Column right here, this is where you can put any data point that you want. So one of the data points we're going to do this semester a lot is something called Return on Invested Capital, also known as ROIC. So ROIC, Return on Invested Capital, standard field. Choose it. Bloomberg's then going to say, which ROIC do you want? What period do you want? I want the one from the latest filing, annualized. So last quarterly results, and then rolling 4 quarters, summarized. Hit enter. And there's the data for every single firm. The top line is the industry average, and then this is the ROIC for each of those companies for the last year. Then I'm going to go back to Add Column, and I'm going to type in WACC for Weighted Average Cost of Capital. I'm going to choose the WACC. I'm going to hit Enter or Return, and then it's going to stick a column in there for WACC. Every individual company, this is real time, calculated today with an industry average WACC. Okay, so this is the screen and the data you're going to need to basically do homework 1. Okay, and this is the industry data, in this case for Disney. Now here's the point, in terms of their spread. In finance, we know that creating value occurs when IRR is greater than R, which leads to a positive NPV. ROIC is a 1-period IRR. That's all it really is. WACC is the R. So the question is going to be, is this a value-creating industry? A value-creating industry occurs when the IRR is greater than the R. So in this case, is the ROIC greater than the WACC? So is this industry, looking at the top line, a value-creating industry? Yes or no? And why? How do you know it's not a value-creating industry?
Because the ROIC is less than 1.
And even though he gave a correct answer, he's getting a 0 on his assignment. Can you repeat your answer one more time? How do you know that this is a value-destructive, value-not-creating industry? You want to help out? Want a friend?
The ROIC is less than the WACC by 2.17%.
Yeah, because the ROIC is 6.83, the WACC is 9, and that's why it's value destructive. This is what I mean by using numbers. Because even though I know he had the right answer, technically, I don't really know if he had the right answer, because he could have just guessed and be looking at the wrong number on here. When you use numbers, you're actually showing me that you know the right answer, because I know what you're actually talking about. This is the habit you got to get yourself into. But this is not an attractive industry. Now, the second question we're going to be asking in the first part of the class is we're going to deal with competitive advantage. All right? In the real world, I work with a lot of companies for a lot of years, and no matter how bad they are, everybody thinks they're good at something. Okay? So we're not going to use that definition here. All right? The definition for competitive advantage we're going to use here is competitive advantage occurs when you outperform your peers. 50% of the performance of any industry, of any company, is the industry. The market matters. If you're in a bad market, it's hard to make money. If you're in a good market, it's easy to make money. So half your performance is your industry. Warren Buffett has invested this way for 40 years. He actually says, I don't invest in companies, I invest in industries. The industry is more important. Because if I fall in love with a company in a bad business, there's nothing they can do, right? Because that's the point. So his philosophy is find the attractive industry, then pick who's going to win. And that's an easy formula that seems to work for him for a long period of time. And that's the approach we're going to take to understanding companies. So first, what is the attractiveness of an industry? And we're going to define industry attractiveness based on spread, the difference between the ROIC and the WACC. Attractive industries, ROIC greater than WACC. Unattractive industries, ROIC less than WACC. Competitive advantage. You have to outperform the industry average to demonstrate competitive advantage. I'll say this harshly. If the average GPA is 3.3 and your GPA is 2.5, you're not an above average student. I'm sorry. If your GPA is 4.0, you're clearly an above average student. Performance relative to average. Same for companies, right? So with that in mind, does Walt Disney demonstrate competitive advantage based on this data? We already know this industry doesn't create value. Does Disney demonstrate competitive advantage? Yes or no, and why? Yeah.
Disney does not have a competitive advantage over the industry because its ROIC is less than its ROIC of 2.66% is less than its WACC of 8.28%, which is a larger difference than the ROIC compared to the WACC associated industry average.
Yeah, because the difference here is about, what's the spread here? Round off.
0.17.
Yeah, what's the spread here?
5.
Yeah, -5, -6, round off. So they're about -5.5%, let's just say. And the industry is only about -2.1, 2.2%. So Disney's not demonstrating competitive advantage. Is Paramount Global demonstrating competitive advantage? Yes or no? Hopefully you say yes. Because they have a positive spread, and the industry has negative spread. But their spread at 9.85 minus 6.6 is positive. We're an industry which is negative, which is about 2.5% negative. So they're clearly demonstrating some form of advantage. They're doing better than their peers for the group. Does that make sense? But at this point, before we get to the individual companies, I just want you to know that some industries are more attractive than others, and that's the point I want to emphasize. So here's the deal. You're going to save this template for reuse. So once you create this template, you're going to click on this gear icon, and you're going to save this so you can reuse what you just did. So I'm going to call this 4:43, 2 p.m. And I'm going to hit save. When I save this template, this bar right here is going to be blank for you. It's going to start filling the save templates around the bar. So when you start creating these templates of all this data, you can save them for reuse, so it's one click. So for example, if I were to go back to the main screen for Disney, I were to go back to RV to look at the peer list, and I go back to custom, there's nothing here. If I click on the template that we just saved, take a second, but it's going to basically reload in what we just saw with real-time data, updated every time you come into the screen. So again, a nice powerful feature of the software. So you'll be creating some of these templates throughout the semester, but this is the one you need for your homework 1. ROIC, latest filing, WACC, current. You're going to basically find an industry that has a negative spread. And at that point, you're going to take a screenshot. You're going to submit the screenshot, no 500-word write-up. How do you take a screenshot? In the upper right-hand corner here, there's this little square with a line coming out. It's the export box. Export, take screenshot, save the screenshot. Then, somewhere on your desktop, name it .gif. So I'll just call this my Disney-RV screenshot. And I now have a screenshot on my desktop. you will submit a screenshot of an industry that has a negative spread for homework 1. Okay? Hint, I think we might have just found one, but I'm not saying this is the one you could use. You could play around the software more, but you'll need to find one. Yes?
I found it. I was wondering where it named the industry, but I saw it.
So here's the key point. Once we have this template loaded, where it has Disney on this bar, not the top bar, give me another company. Who?
Google.
Google. So we type in Alphabet, which is Google, hit enter, and using this template, all the data will be replaced by Google, its peers, and it will create a new industry average. So let's see how Google looks. Is Google in an attractive industry? I'll short circuit in the interest of time, but this is a much more attractive industry. Industry average ROIC is almost 24%. Okay, against a cost of capital of 10%. This industry is doing really, really well. Right? How's Alphabet, which is Google, doing? They demonstrating competitive advantage? Barely. Right? Slight, but not much. This is the company the Justice Department wants to break up as an all-powerful monopoly that earns so much money that it's taking advantage of you. It's industry average. Give me another company.
JP Morgan Chase.
Who?
JP Morgan Chase.
JP Morgan Chase. I want to stay away from banks. Chipotle. And the reason why is just banks get a little quirky with ROIC. We have to use return on equity. But so let's look at Chipotle. We'll look at banks later, just not today. It gets complicated. Here's Chipotle. So this will be fast casual restaurants. Generally, attractive industry, pretty attractive. 18% ROIC against about an 8% WACC. Chipotle making 13 against 9.5, still creating value, not as much. You know who's doing well? Yum. Yum is doing really well. As a matter of fact, if you click on ROIC, you can also rank these columns. So Domino's, 51% per year ROIC. Whoever thought that basically cheese in a cardboard box could be so profitable? Okay, but that's the point. Like, a lot of these companies are doing really well because it's a great business to be in right now. Okay, matter of fact, how do you think the airlines are doing last year? Good, bad? Good? Last year, 2022. I think the airlines did. Was it a good environment for the airlines? That's how we start approaching EIC. Think it was a good environment? Well, we're still dealing with COVID. Business traveler, are they fully back yet? Not quite. Were the airlines completely full last year? Somewhat, but 20% of an airline's cost is fuel, and oil prices spiked. And so they didn't have the business traveler. They had high oil prices, and it's still a tough environment for them. So, and there were also some labor shortages that caused them some extra costs and struggles. So what I'm telling you is give me a publicly traded airline. Delta. So what I'm telling you is you should be able to infer that the numbers I'm about to show you probably don't look too good. And what you're going to quickly see is the average North American airline had a negative ROIC. And if you look through this list, Delta's doing okay, but no one has a positive spread, and every single one of these airlines is struggling. And I'm now looking at global airlines. I could switch this to North American, full service. So that'll include like Delta, American, Southwest, United. But what you'll see is whether I look globally or whether I look at the US, with the exception of this company called Copa. Is Copa like, that's a Latin American airline? I'm not familiar with them. But in any event, with the exception of Copa, no one's really doing well. I don't know why Copa's doing well, because they just don't care about COVID. But in any event, That's the point I want you to understand. As you start going around this list of companies, you pick your own, you'll start to see that some industries are doing better than others. And that's going to set up what we're going to do in our first assignments when we get into EIC. But your first assignment is basically to find an industry with a negative spread. I think I might have shown you a couple already, so it's not that hard. Create this template, create a screenshot showing it has the negative spread, submit that without a write-up. Easy 2 points. It's a layup. Right? You might say, gee, why is he making this first assignment so easy? Because if you do the assignment, I know you have a Bloomberg login. I know you've started to use the terminal. I know you're starting to pay attention to how to use that terminal. Right? Now, you'll be doing this before you finish your certification. And the certification will teach you more about this, and we'll continue to do this. And everything I've shown you here has been recorded and will be posted in the YouTube video. So when you're trying to struggle, let's say they get the serial numbers working tomorrow, and try and come back in the lab, you'll be able to do this. Now, I'm moving the assignment, homework 1, till next Wednesday, all right, as opposed to Monday because of our technical difficulties. But nonetheless, by next Wednesday, you'll submit the assignment. Next Monday, we'll go through lecture note 1. And the final thing I would just recommend is in ELMS people, you're on a team. Start meeting your teammates, because next week we're going to start your group projects and just get to know each other. You might want to create even a group chat or something so you can collaborate with each other. And otherwise, the first readings you can start doing in the textbook for next week. All right, have a good week. See everybody on Monday.
Hold on, quick question. Okay,
Mhm.
already created.
Hold on, let me stop the recording.
Big.